Hello, welcome to a new edition of the Right Wing Populist Podcast. I am the Right Wing Populist. So today I want to talk about President Trump, the 45th and 47th President of the United States. What the hell is going on with this guy? What happened to America First Trump? What happened to No Stupid Wars Trump? You got this other guy in office who's posting on Truth Social, "Make Iran great again." What is that? What happened to my beloved? What happened to your brother got us into illegal wars. He lied us into war. Trump screaming at Jeb Bush, that loser. What happened to that guy? We have this new guy who is like in love with Israel. He loves the Jewish state. I love the Jewish state. It's tremendous. It's fantastic. Ivanka's a Jew now. It's great. They wear the yarmulkes. It's so fun. Who the hell is this guy? What happened to him? And that's the question, because unfortunately, this stupid war with Iran, where we have no strategic endpoint, we have no idea what the hell we're doing, this is totally destroying the movement Trump created, and it's so sad to see. And I want to talk about it. What the hell? Why is Trump doing this? Is this really still America first, like some of these, stupid conservative influencers are trying to say? What the hell is going on here? But before we get into it all, I need you to do something for me, folks. It's so simple. It's so easy. A child could do it. A Democrat could do it. Bibi Netanyahu could do it. Well, maybe not, because it doesn't involve killing children, but maybe he could do it. I need you to subscribe, whether it's on YouTube, Man, that was more cruel than I wanted it to sound, but there's truth to that. I need you to subscribe, whether on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever the hell you listen to your podcast. It's available. And if you're listening on the YouTube, like and comment. It helps a great deal with the algorithm. I would so greatly appreciate it. So I sort of talked about this on the last podcast, but I want to sort of, hone in on the main issue. Is Trump betraying the original idea of MAGA? The original concept of America First, by doing this war in Iran? And I think the answer is yes, clearly. But why is Trump doing it? And then let me break down, and I did talk about this more in the last podcast, but let me briefly break down why this is a betrayal. Number one, the whole idea of putting America first is that our interests are supreme. It's sort of a nationalistic way of looking at the country. Whether you agree with nationalism or not, that's what it is. And the point of nationalism is that we are different. The other people, others, but we're focused on the nation state, right? Like, it is inherently exclusive. It's not inclusive the way, a liberal view of it. Liberalism is inherently inclusive, but nationalism is exclusive, because we do make a distinction between people within the nation and people outside the nation, whether you agree with that or not. And the point of that is that we have national interests. We need to put our nation first. And the only reason we should interact with other countries is if it benefits our strategic goals or our interests. That's sort of a broad way of looking at it. And that's appealing to a lot of voters, and that's what Trump ran on. That's why Trump was saying these stupid wars in the Middle East, they don't benefit us, so we shouldn't get involved. They may benefit Israel, they may benefit other Muslim countries or the people within these countries that we invade, but I'm sorry, we need to focus on we don't want our soldiers, the best of us, dying if it's not in the interest of the United States. So that's the same thing with trade policy. Yes, maybe these trade deals help countries and people in poor countries, but if it doesn't help the workers in this country, we need to get out of these trade deals. Maybe we should have certain protections on trade, using tariffs, famously. So that is sort of the idea, I would say, that we have to there is a distinction between people within our nation and then the people outside of our nation, and we need to be focused on the people within our nation. It's inherently exclusive. Okay. The problem here of what Trump is doing now, why this is a betrayal, is because he's clearly doing this for Israel. Okay, he's doing this for another country. He's doing the war in Iran for another country, because this war is not in our interest. It's not our interest in a strategic point of view. It's not in our interest from a moral point of view. It's not in Trump's interest politically or the Republicans' interest politically, but we're doing it anyway. So the question is, well, why? And there's a lot of I'm going to debunk some conspiracy theories. One of the main reasons I've seen people claim that the reason why Trump is bombing Iran is because that Epstein had blackmail on Trump. And because Epstein was working with Israel, Israel therefore has blackmail on Trump, and that's how they got Trump to start this war. Okay, very quickly, and I may break this down in more detail on a podcast later next week. I don't know. We'll see. These podcast uploads are a little bit sporadic lately. I apologize for that. But to put it shortly, or whatever the hell you want to call it, there's no evidence of that. First off, there's no evidence that Trump was raping kids, just to be blunt about it. And frankly, there's not much evidence at all that Jeffrey Epstein was actually intelligence, whether working with the CIA, working for Mossad. There's really no evidence that there was a pedophile ring. I know people don't like to hear that. I know it's controversial to say, but I don't care. I'll say it anyway. Story of my life. The reality is that there's no evidence of this pedophile ring. Okay. What Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of was having sex with a 17-year-old a day before her 18th birthday at his club in Florida. It wasn't even on the famous island or the infamous island, depending on your viewpoint. That's a joke. That's what he got convicted of, having sex with a 17-year-old a day before her 18th birthday. And it wasn't even on his island, and no one was actually trafficked. He was charged with soliciting sex with a minor and, prostitution. Okay. I mean, if he had been 100 miles north in Georgia, George is on my mind. If he had been in Georgia, there would have been no crime, at least in terms of the age, because the age of consent in Georgia is 17. Still can't pay him. Prostitution, I believe, is illegal in Georgia, but the actual age of consent would have been fine in Georgia. George is on my mind. I can't sing. This is why, so that's why I do shitty podcasts, because I can't sing. But the point is, although I am on Spotify, the point is that explanation doesn't really work. Again, no evidence of this blackmail operation, and certainly no evidence that Trump raped any kids. So, why is Trump doing this? Well, one of my main concerns one of the few concerns I had about Trump becoming president again was his age. Okay, because he was 78 when he got elected, the same age Biden was when he was elected in 2020. Quote unquote elected. You know how I feel about that, but that's okay. He was, actually 6 months older than Biden, actually. When Biden got elected in 2020, again, quote unquote elected. And my concern about Trump's age was, I think if you're going to take on the establishment, if you're going to fight the corrupt system, you sort of have to have, you have to have high energy and sort of your bearings and stamina and the wherewithal. You have to have the cognitive ability to stand up to these people. You have to have the energy and stamina to stand up against the bureaucracy in the system. And Trump had high energy during his first term, and that's one of the reasons why I liked him as president. And even though for a 78-year-old he clearly had high energy, he still was 78. And one of the fears I had is, well, is he going to be able to, put his foot down when you have all these corrupt interest groups putting pressure on him to either go to war, implement policy that's not good for the everyday American worker, or if he had, corporate interest groups trying to prevent him from deporting people because a lot of these corporations benefit from illegal labor. At Trump's age, is he going to be way too deferential to not fight back? And I think that's probably what we saw here. Trump, Israel and the lobby, AIPAC, Bibi Netanyahu, they put tremendous pressure on Trump to go to war this past week. I mean, Bibi Netanyahu visited the White House 7 or 8 times, which is insane. That's an insane amount of time that's in Trump's second term alone. That's an insane amount of times to visit the White House if you're a foreign government. And the reason why Bibi was doing is to lobby Trump to get us into war. And because that's something Bibi Netanyahu has wanted for decades, because it's in Israel's interest to basically decimate all its neighboring countries, because Israel wants to be the lone hegemonic power within the region. I'm not blaming Israel for that, although I think it's stupid. But, a lot of stupid people in Israel, I guess, these days. But I'm not blaming Israel for that. It actually kind of makes sense, in all seriousness, from their strategic point of view. But, if they want to break apart these countries, that's on them. Why the hell are we getting involved? But whatever. And the reason is because we have to, because Israel can't do it alone. And I just think that when you have people like Little Marco, Gay Bathhouse Marco Rubio, and you have all these neocons still within the bureaucracy, Trump, I just think at his age, he's just so unwilling to say no. Second problem is, John Mearsheimer was 100% correct about the Israel lobby, as I just mentioned, AIPAC, and Israel's influence on our domestic politics. It's insane. I mean, the Trump administration, it's like the number one priority is Israel. You've had our government deporting people on universities, foreign students who have written critical articles about Israel, not being anti-Semitic at all, just being critical of their treatment of the Palestinians. And the Trump administration deported their asses. It's like, why? You have people, like one of the main policy objectives of the Trump DOJ has been, quote unquote, protecting Jewish students on college campuses, as if there's like this weird epidemic of hate crimes against Jews. There's not. And to the extent there is, it has to do with right-wing hate crimes, not college campuses, which is full of left-wingers. I mean, anti-Semitism is still a much bigger problem on the right than it is on the left, just objectively speaking. But what the pro-Israel people do, what the right-wingers do, what the AIPAC does, is they conflate left-wing critiques of Israel with anti-Semitism. And it's insane. Being critical of Israel is not the same thing as being anti-Semitic, contrary to what people like Pam Bondi would tell you. So the Trump administration, they talk about how we shouldn't be woke, we shouldn't accuse everyone of being racist, but then the Trump administration has essentially accused everyone who's anti-Semitic, everyone who's anti-Israel as being anti-Semitic. And it's very disturbing. So clearly, and look, you have Mike Huckabee, who's our ambassador for Israel, being interviewed by Tucker Carlson, and he shits on the United States to defend Israel. He says that Israel does a better job of protecting civilians than we do. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. It might be true. I don't think it is, but it might be true. But why would you say that if you're representing our government? Like, what is that? Why are you crapping on our country to defend a foreign country that you don't represent? You're supposed to represent us. So, it's so funny. People said during Trump's first term that he was co-opted by the Russians. He was never co-opted by the Russians. The country that the Trump administration, at least this one, is co-opted by is Israel. Israel has essentially done a mini coup in the United States. And it started before Trump, but now Trump's the president, and I just don't think he has the wherewithal to fight back against it. I think he's decided it's just easier to go along with what Israel wants. They wanted this war. I'm sure there's a part of Trump who legitimately thinks it's good for Iran not to get a nuclear weapon, and I understand that. Fair enough. Like, I'm not criticizing Trump for that. But you could have negotiated a deal with Iran like Obama did. A better version. You could have improved the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal. There were problems with that deal. From a non-interventionist perspective, you could still critique that deal. There are ways you could have made it better. Have no sunset provisions, stricter inspection provisions. There were ways you could have made the deal better, although obviously the core of the deal would have been similar, no doubt about that. But you could have made the deal better. But it's just easier at this point when you have all this pressure from the lobby, AIPAC, other pro-Israel groups, Bibi Netanyahu himself. It becomes very difficult, especially when Bibi Netanyahu essentially, and the Trump administration has admitted this, that they were going to attack Iran regardless. And essentially, Bibi said, if we attack Iran, your troops are going to be in danger regardless, so you might as well do it with us. So your troops can be prepared, so there'll be less casualties. It's actually kind of fucked up if you think about it. So my general premise is that Trump just does not have the energy or the patience to push back against the neocon agenda like he did during his first term, because he's just old now. It's sad to say, and he doesn't look very good. He's getting these weird rashes on him. His hand's all messed up. His hair's thin as hell now. It's just sad to see. So don't get me wrong. For his age, he still has a lot of energy, but I just don't think he has the energy to combat the deep state. So that's fundamentally my explanation for why Trump is gone. And there's other things too. I mean, it looks like he's going to endorse Corbyn for the Texas Senate race, not Ken Paxton, which is insane, just insane. We've started to with we're not deporting people like we said we would during the campaign. It's just Trump has said he doesn't care about gas prices. It's very sad to see. Hopefully the ship gets turned around. I'm not optimistic about it, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, folks, that's going to be it for today's episode. I may be back later today with a bonus pod, either today or tomorrow. We'll see. Fingers crossed. Again, please subscribe whether on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Greatly appreciate it. Like I said, we should be back either later today or tomorrow. Hope you have a great weekend, folks. Bye-bye.